You're going to Disneyland, and riding Radiator Springs Racers is an absolute priority. But you also know that it is the most popular attraction at the entire Disneyland Resort. Standby can be a disaster. Lots of competition from paid Lightning Lane. How long will it take, really? An hour? 90 minutes? More than any other attraction at the parks, Radiator Springs can be a total mystery. And that's why this video might be the most important video you watch when it comes to cracking that Radiator Springs code. I rode Radiator Springs Racers 30 times. I studied the queues, the operations, the flow of guests. I spent more than 25 hours literally standing in line, and I tracked everything. Today I'm going to share everything I learned with you. When to get in standby, when not to get in standby. Is the posted wait time real? Is individual Lightning Lane worth it? Are there any hacks or secrets? And by the end of this video, Radiator Springs Racers will no longer be that intimidating mystery that it can be, and you and your group will be prepared for the best possible visit to Ornament Valley. So, why is Radiator Springs Racers so intimidating? Mostly because of this. And that's pretty standard. Actually, that's on the lower end of the scale. Let's go to the data. The average posted wait time during our 30-ride trial was 69.8 minutes, with the majority, 16 of 27 trips, not counting rope drops, more than 60 minutes. Out of those 30 trips, just 11 had a posted wait time under 60 minutes. The good news, though, is that those trips under 60 minutes were under some very specific and predictable conditions that we're going to cover in a little bit. So right away, we can observe that 70 minutes on average at Disneyland is a very high wait time. Higher than Rise of the Resistance, higher still for Disneyland in general. Is that number realistic? How much can we trust a posted wait time at Radiator Springs Racers? Well, that average posted wait time of 70 minutes turns out to actually be an average wait time of 56 minutes. And I'm here to tell you, by the way, that while I was compiling this data, I thought for sure that it would be higher than that. While 56-minute actual wait time is a long time, again, longer than any other ride at the park, I thought it would be higher. Having been in 30 queues over a wide variety of time frames and conditions, I did not find many bargains. There are some, there are opportunities, but on balance, the posted wait time and the actual wait time will be in the same neighborhood, plus or minus 15% perhaps. So the first mystery we can solve is that Radiator Springs Racers is what it looks to be, a popular, well-attended attraction whose posted wait time is more or less going to be pretty accurate. Now, let's look closer at those wait times. While 17 of those actual wait times were under the posted wait time, it wasn't by a lot. The biggest savings was 70 minutes. That's where the posted wait time was 150 minutes, but the actual wait time was 80. So it's a big discount, but still almost an hour and a half of actual wait time. Less often was the actual wait time greater than that which was posted. Only 8 times out of 30, not including, again, rope drops and breakdowns. When that did happen, it was for an average of 22 minutes each. There was one outlier where the posted wait time was 85 minutes, but we actually waited 164 minutes. That's almost double, over by 79 minutes. But that was due to a small matter of an earthquake. Yes, I was in the Radiator Springs Racers queue the night that happened, and I can assure you it was excruciating. So we'll take that one out, which gives us an actual wait time average of 14 minutes over the posted on those occasions where it was over the posted, a 20% variance. Given all that, we're on the lookout for some predictable discounts. Now, you'll recall from Rise of the Resistance that there were more than a few. How does Radiator Springs Racers compare? Well, I'll say this. One thing Rise and Radiator Springs have in common is that we do not recommend rope dropping. And we tried several times. But for the most part, we were kind of disappointed with the results. The first issue guests will encounter is early entry. for guests staying on property. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, 4 days a week, guests at the Grand Californian, Disneyland Hotel, or Pixar Place Hotel are allowed into California Adventure 30 minutes ahead of regular guests, 30 minutes prior to the proper park opening. Now, while Radiator Springs Racers is not open during that 30-minute stretch, it's not one of the included early entry attractions. That does not stop hotel guests from queuing ahead of the rope droppers. So our very first rep in this series, we tried rope dropping on an early entry day. Took us about 5 minutes to get to the threshold, then another 40 to get to our vehicle. Now, definitely that's less than the average wait time of 70 minutes, but not the big time saver you might think it would be. And in the process, you pretty much spent your entire advantage of showing up at the park at 8 a.m. Also, like Rise of the Resistance, there is the very real chance that the ride will not even be open when the park does. We experienced that on our second attempt at rope dropping Radiator Springs. Finally, on our third effort, when we rope dropped on a non-early entry day, got there as early as we possibly could, we hit the rope at 7:30 a.m., and the ride did open on time. It was still a 22-minute wait to get to our ride vehicle. Now, it's a win by any measurable, but that was probably the best we could do with luck on our side, optimal. As we've said often, if we're rope dropping, we prefer trying to hit as many top attractions as possible in the first 2 hours so that we can cross them off our list, leaving us time for everything else for the rest of the day. Rope dropping Radiator Springs eliminates a big chunk of that opportunity. Okay, what about breakdowns? That's something of a go-to hack at Rise the Resistance, and this is possible because Rise breaks down kind of often. As long as you're watching the tip board with some diligence, you have a decent shot at getting a discount if you time things right. Things are not quite as predictable at Radiator Springs because it simply does not shut down as often as Rise does. Completely, that is. I'll explain. When Rise breaks down, it's down for an hour or more, as it takes that long to reset the attraction. That's not always the case at Radiator Springs. This leaves you less time to react when it does break down. One thing I observed in the 25 hours I spent in Radiator Springs queues is that there are more than a few micro breakdowns, occasions where the queue would just stop moving for 10 or 15 minutes, but you didn't really get that we're going to be closed for a while feeling. Everyone just sort of stayed in the queue. When Rise goes down, most everyone leaves because they know it's going to be for an hour or more. When Radiator Springs breaks down, most just tough it out. How do you know whether or not you should tough it out? Well, here's a helpful tip to help you decide when you should stay in the queue and when you should bail. Anytime there's a ride stoppage, the lights go on and the music stops. There will also be a technical announcement, not for guests, but for the cast. If it says ride stop, station stop, that's most likely a temporary delay. But if the announcement says something like track power down, that's bad news. During the micro breakdowns, they leave the cars powered. Everything stays on and they just wait for the okay to resume operations. The longer breakdowns, they power the vehicles down completely. They turn them off. And when they turn them off, that means it's going to be a while. So it's probably okay at that point to jump out of the queue. And it's for this reason that even when you see a breakdown on the tip board, it may not necessarily be an opportunity. In fact, it probably isn't. In fact, it could even work to your disadvantage. So eliminating breakdowns, we're still without a real, identifiable, reliable discount at Radiator Springs. No doubt, this is a tough attraction to hack. Now might be a good idea to mention the old reliable, single rider. Single rider is a not-so-secret weapon, at least not at Radiator Springs. But at Radiator Springs, it's not nearly as overlooked as it is elsewhere at Disneyland. People show up for single rider. The queue is constantly occupied. But in spite of its popularity, it's still a great option and will always underscore, capitalize, beat standby always. Worst case scenario, maybe 30 minutes, but usually it's less than that. Now, like standby, it's hard to tell where the queue is because it's such a long and winding queue. But I can say this, if when you arrive at the track and you can see the back of the queue from the waiting area, you're looking at the higher end of the range, 20 to 30 minutes perhaps. From the first bridge, you're looking at about 20 minutes. From the fountain, that's about 15 minutes. And at the mix point, maybe 7 minutes to your ride vehicle. The reason why it can absorb so many riders despite its popularity is because it is the absolute ideal scenario for single rider guests. 6 people per ride vehicle, but 2 benches of 3 guests each. Now, most groups, most traveling parties at Disneyland are in pairs, couples, even numbers. Not all, of course. Certainly there will be odd number groups of 3 or 5, but the majority will be groups of 2 or 4 or 6. Those even-numbered parties create opportunities for single riders. A group of 4, for example, will create 2 empty seats. 1 couple in the front, 1 couple in the back. 1 single rider in each row. It's kind of magical. You put that same group of 4 on Space Mountain, and they'll fill up 4 of the 6 seats evenly, leaving 2 empty seats for another couple. No seats for single riders. So by the numbers, Radiator Springs Racers single rider is a pretty good opportunity. And that's a pretty good opportunity for everyone, not just actual single riders. I say this because some believe couples or groups are not allowed to go on single rider, or they believe that they shouldn't. I disagree. With respect to single rider versus standby, every single seat that a single rider takes on Radiator Springs or any other single rider attraction, that seat would have gone empty if single rider did not exist. 100%. Single rider is the best invention for maximizing occupancy in an attraction. The single rider is not taking anyone's seat. Disney also agrees with this, of course, to the point where they literally and overtly encourage guests to use it. Often you will hear cast members on particularly busy days making announcements over the speakers. They'll remind guests that single rider exists, and right now it's just a 15-minute wait. If you want to save some time, get out of standby and get in single rider. They literally ask you to do this. Maybe not in those exact words, but to that effect. Short of it is, Disney wants you to go on single rider, and that includes couples and groups. But you will be split up. Now, there's a chance you might be in the same car, but you will be split, one in the front, one in the back. But most likely, you're going to be in different cars. So that's old reliable. What else we got? There's paid individual lightning lane, generally around $20 per person, depending on the day. Is it worth it? Is it a good value? Well, worth is definitely a subjective term. $20 means a lot of different things to different people, especially when you're paying for more than just your seat. If you're paying for 3 or 4 seats, now you're looking at $80. One thing I can say for sure is that it is more valuable, more worthy at Radiator Springs than it is at Rise of the Resistance. There are a lot of ways to beat the Rise queue in an effort to save that $20. In fact, just getting in standby and waiting is, on average, just 40 minutes. That's without even trying. But using Lightning Lane at Radiator Springs will save you. It will save you, on average, maybe 55 minutes. And with fewer opportunities to save time in standby, it becomes even more valuable. Lightning Lane will get you to your vehicle in maybe 5 or 10 minutes, 10 being on the higher end. That's even when the queue looks busy. There have been some rare occasions where Lightning Lane looks impossibly long, running out into Route 66 over there by Flo's V8 Cafe even. Even on those days, it's still a victory. Those guests are still going to wait a little longer than usual, obviously, maybe 20 minutes, maybe 30 on the high end. But I promise you, standby will be brutal. Standby will be an hour and a half, 2 hours. I will note, by the way, if you are a Lightning Lane guest and you see a queue out there on Route 66, just come back later. They'll clear that queue in about 30 minutes, maybe an hour. come back then, and that queue will be gone. So in the end, if we're grading paid Lightning Lane on a scale, Radiator Springs Racers is more worth it than any other attraction. So with that, let's go back to the data again. We mentioned earlier that the posted standby wait times that were under 60 minutes generally happened under some specific and predictable situations. 11 of the 30 reps, not counting rope drops or breakdowns, were posted at under 60 minutes. We'll define those posted wait times of 45 minutes and under to be the true discounts. Of those 11, just 4 were at 45 or under. 3 of those 4 were between 8 p.m. and closing, the last 2 hours. These are posted wait times, by the way. As for actual wait times, there were 15 occasions, half, that were under 60. Again, not counting rope drops or breakdowns. Of those, just 7 were at 45 minutes or under, true wins. Of those 7, 4 were between 8 p.m. and closing, the last 2 hours. Taking this one step further, we did 5 reps where we entered the queue on or after 8 p.m. 4 of those 5 had actual wait times under 45 minutes. Actually, they were 35 minutes and under. So you can see where I'm going. Interesting though, there was one trip where we entered after 8 p.m. and we had an actual wait time over 45 minutes, and that one rep was where the wait time was posted at 25 minutes. Super rare, by the way. I don't have a note on this one, but this is almost certainly a case where it was either a call to action and everybody jumped in the queue, they had the wait time wrong on the board and everybody jumped in the queue, or there certainly were some micro breakdowns. But again, that's an outlier, something that I would probably throw out if I was doing a real serious statistical analysis. In fact, I'll say this, I re-entered the queue right after completing that rep, and the posted wait time had gone from 25 minutes to 40 minutes and went back up. But then when we actually got into the queue, it was just 23 minutes. In other words, that one rep was a statistical anomaly and not representative of the overall behavior of Radiator Springs after 8 p.m. And that overall behavior, it's a blast, man. It's easy. Wait until after 8 p.m. If you're looking for a reliable discount, excluding single rider or individual Lightning Lane, wait until 8 p.m. Note here that this is made more reliable by the fact that Radiator Springs Racers closes the same time the park does, whereas Rise closes 2 hours prior to park closing, so the park is closer to its normal attendance. But at Radiator Springs, at 8 p.m., 2 hours prior to closing, DCA is experiencing something of an exodus. Guests are leaving the park and heading to Disneyland. One more thing to observe from the data is that while it's not easy to find discounts, one thing we can confirm with that data is when not to get in the queue. There were 11 cases where the posted wait time was more than 70 minutes. Of those 11, 6 were in the middle of the day, between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. The other 5 were after 6 p.m. The 5 after 6 p.m., between 6 p.m. and closing, had an average wait time of 103 minutes, but an average actual wait time of 51 minutes. Yes, that is half. That stretch, in the last 4 hours, you're going to find the posted wait time to err statistically much higher than the actual wait time. On average, a discount of 52 minutes against the posted wait time if you arrive after 6 p.m. The 6 during the middle of the day, completely different story. Average posted wait time of 85 minutes and an average actual wait time of 88 minutes, 3 minutes over the posted wait time. The lesson here is very clear. Don't try Radiator Springs in the middle of the day. Noon to 6 p.m. is pretty much off limits if you're looking for a discount. Noon to 6 p.m. you should be doing as many non-Lightning Lane attractions as possible. So the lesson here is try Radiator Springs Racers during that time and you will wait for the posted wait time. More lessons. Do take advantage of single rider. Do try to save Radiator Springs Racers until at least 6 p.m. kind of try rope drop, but maybe don't do it first thing. Maybe save it for around 9 or 10 a.m. Maybe make that your third attraction. Same strategy as Rise of the Resistance. Do not try Radiator Springs Racers between noon and 6. Individual Lightning Lane is an absolute time saver, the best possible time saver if you're willing to part with the $20 per person. And aside from that, whenever you do wind up looking to take a spin around Ornament Valley, know that, on average, you're going to be within 15% of the posted wait time. In short, Radiator Springs Racers is just as it appears to be, a very tough track to hack. Next up for Fresh Baked, I don't know, man, let's do 30 rides on Space Mountain, Matterhorn, Grizzly River Run. Leave a comment to cast your vote for where you'd like us to conduct our next lab test. In the meantime, support us on Patreon at patreon.com/freshbaked. Then follow us on Twitter at FreshBakedDizzy, that's fresh with no E, and on Instagram at _freshbaked. Or stick around and watch our 30 rides video for Rise of the Resistance or our proven rope drop strategy here at Disneyland. And until next time, guys, thank you very much for watching. Be safe out there, be kind to one another, and fresh baked.